Hello and welcome to another episode of the Contractor Growth Show. My name is Mark, and today I'm really excited to interview Chris Terrell at Chris Garage Doors here in the Denver area. Chris, thank you so much for being with us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
And so you guys have got a great story. I love how the business started. You've been doing this, almost 10 years now. You guys have done some really interesting kind of outreach and I don't know, donating a lot of your like gross revenue to different causes that you're a part of.
Yeah.
And we talked a little bit before the show just about some things you want to emphasize about finding your purpose. I'd love to start just by hearing the story of Chris Garage Doors, and then kind of history and where you guys are at today.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I often say that Chris Garage Doors was born out of divine intervention. I had no desire to be a business owner at all, and I had no strong desire to work in the trades. I never was opposed to the trades, but I never focused on it as a career path, and was actually in a seminary program at Denver Seminary. While I was in seminary, I met a guy who owned a garage door company, worked for him for a couple of years, and then pretty much I graduated. He sold his company. I thought I was done with garage doors, and then I had a friend offer me an invite to bid a company in invite to bid a project in Steamboat Springs for 41 doors in an apartment complex. And that's how I incorporated. I didn't put any thought into the name itself. I just thought the IRS needed something to track. I didn't know if I was going to grow it or just keep it as a side business that I could help some friends out with. And then I just started building. And if you want me to speak to the purpose side of things, I can. But do you want to just talk more about the company itself, or how do you want to go?
Yeah, well, I'd love to start just by hearing kind of, and I love the story so far. I mean, it sounds like that was a huge project. I mean, what was it like to land a 41 door job, as the start of your business?
It was exhausting and exciting all at the same time because, I was by myself. They were small doors, fortunately. So it was just single car doors in a complex. And, basically got an Airbnb in Steamboat Springs, brought my wife with me. She worked remotely, and I was doing 4 or 5 doors a day for 2 weeks straight, and very exhausting, but exciting. I mean, if you think about starting a company and you tell someone they can start with the tools they need, the truck they need, and a computer, and have no overhead or debt to start off, I mean, that's a great way to start a business if you can, obviously. But also because of that, I didn't have like a strong desire to grow it either, because I wasn't feeling any pressure. But I really started to learn that I could start building something, and so I started pursuing it more and more.
That's amazing. And so, man, I really get the sense, you've got a great thriving company here now, kind of have been in Aurora, kind of over sort of in the east side of Denver, but have always been serving, South Denver and the larger metro Denver area. Um, but I mean, some of our communications we had before the show here, I really get the sense that this is um, kind of a larger mission for you. That I mean, it sounds like you're in seminary. And that you're this wasn't necessarily your first choice of being,
Right.
a business owner. And even here through the business that you've done, you're really supporting your
Yeah.
community. I mean, I'd love to hear, what that's all about. Tell me about some of the different work that you're doing outside of the garage door company.
Yeah. I've often said it's not really about the garage doors. It's about how we show up in the community. So yeah, obviously not planning on starting a garage door company. I often joke, I graduated it with a Master's of Divinity and started a garage door company, which is what normally you would do, right? Um, so I really, it wasn't even on my radar. And
Right.
but I also have this strong understanding that who I am has nothing to do with what I do for work or how I make money, because that's where the purpose side of things comes from. My purpose is the same whether I'm doing garage doors, whether I'm teaching at a church, whether I'm, you know, picking up dog crap, for people. It's really how you interact with the world is really what your purpose is. And when I'm not extremely money motivated. I obviously you got to pay your bills and stuff, but when I realized that I could start making money running a business, I thought, well, what a better way to make an impact on my community than allocating that. So very early on, we created the vision of making Colorado a better place to live. And so we've allocated a lot of resources to partnering with local nonprofits and trying to make our community better. So we do dedicate 3% of our top line revenue, regardless of profitability, to local nonprofits. I serve on some charity boards. I try to help coach and teach charities how to be more strategic with their relationships with the small business community. And then, I kind of try to talk to people about how to discover and know their purpose and kind of work through that too. So it's a bit multifaceted, but it's really community focused, trying to do the best work we can. Obviously, putting in some really nice looking garage doors, making the community look and run better, but really treating my employees well, and then also giving back to the community and making sure that we're supporting the Denver metro primarily, but it's really the state of Colorado that we're trying to make better.
Wow. How many, can I ask how many people are on your team? Maybe it's a range, but kind of how many average?
It depends on the time. Right now, we've been scaling down a little bit. We're really kind of small, slim, cutting back on a lot of things, trying to refocus, recenter. Right. So right now it's just me and my main technician, John, who's been with me for 5 years. We've had as many as four full-time employees. So we've always been a small company, small operation, and I always try to keep it W-2s as opposed to 1099s, just because I think that the employees will buy into the mission, and you'll have better quality outcomes when you have them like as direct employees as opposed to subbing out the work.
Wow, interesting. I mean, can I ask you, and I think you've kind of stated it in different ways, but can I just ask you clearly, what is your mission?
Yeah. Well, so, obviously I come from a faith background, so my purpose is much aligned with my faith. But I think that, so let me boil it down this way. I think that if we took it out of the faith realm, I think that every human on this planet has the same purpose of, we are here to make the people around us better. And then each of us individually is uniquely gifted, and I'll use the word gifted or designed because of my faith background, is uniquely positioned or talented to make their sphere of influence better. And if you are honoring that mission, that purpose, then you are going to live a more fulfilled life. I think our problem in our society is that we're always pursuing passion or things that make us feel better about ourselves, when really what we're really here to do is make the people's lives around us better, or impact them in positive ways, or encourage them, how it works. So when my purpose, I often consider myself a chaplain at my core. So what I do is I help navigate people on a journey of discovering faith. And, I'm never pushy about my faith on people, but I want people to feel comfortable talking to me about their faith journey in God, the idea of God, the universe, whatever, and kind of walk them through that. And I've always been gifted at taking complex topics or ideas and being able to disseminate them in palatable ways. And so God put me in a position where I get to talk to business owners or people in the business community about their faith journey while they're running a business, or trying to learn how to sell, or trying to honor their community, stuff like that.
Man, I love it. What a beautiful vision. And I mean, not obviously, but I mean, I appreciate you speaking to folks from, different backgrounds and different, sort of beliefs and things. I mean, the work that you do and the faith is with your church. And I mean, you're highly involved with your church as well. And spend a lot of time maybe with, different groups there. I mean, do you do any kind of leading of the youth groups, or, what type of groups in the church are you involved in?
Yeah, I've been involved in various capacities over the years. I served on the global committee, which is basically they partner with global missions partners. I've served on the welcoming group. I've served on the nominating committee, which is basically people that seek out potential future leaders of the church. And currently I'm serving on the elder board. So just kind of helping oversee the spiritual direction and business side of the church. And that's on a personal level. From the company standpoint, I've always been emphasizing, like, let's just help the local community. So most of the nonprofits we partner with from a company standpoint are not necessarily faith-based, but just more community active. So food insecurity, mental health, stuff like that. We are focused on the human experience. So we want to make human lives better. So we do focus on things that involve that.
Man, I love it. So What I've seen, I mean, we've got our own business here. I talk with business owners all day. Is that if someone has a very powerful kind of mission that maybe isn't, to grow a huge company and to have, a big business per se, that maybe their sort of interests are more diverse and they're interested either in their church and their community or some other very important projects to the side of the business.
Mm.
That actually being in business often brings in a lot of skills that they're able to actually take to their church.
Sure.
So I mean they're dealing with kind of bookkeeping and they're dealing with financing stuff and they're dealing with kind of organizing people.
Yeah.
I mean, how has, and I get the sense that that's probably happening for you, that perhaps your church looks to you as someone that also has some strong experience now in the business
Mhm.
world. I mean, how does you having a successful garage door company here in Denver help you with the mission with your church and with the outreach that you do in the community?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that the being a business owner has opened up a lot of windows of opportunity for me. One is it's expanded my professional network in ways that I never realized I could. Um, and so I've interacted with a lot of people in the business community, a lot of them in the South Metro area. So I've built up a good network of people, and I've also been able to hone in on the way I present myself and the way I interact with people and how to have conversations. Uh, from the church standpoint, you are a bit of a unicorn when you have a formal church degree, like a seminary degree, like a Master of Divinity, like I have, and you've been a business owner for a number of years. So that combination isn't as common because most people that pursue the divinity degree are pursuing full-time paid ministry. And I've always, kind of had this idea in the back of my head that everybody that follows Jesus is in ministry. You just have to figure out how that looks in your life. Um,
Uh-huh.
but I had the privilege of preaching a sermon at my church just a few weeks ago or a few months ago now, and I had preached a sermon before, maybe 8 years ago, when I was in seminary, and I realized that the the relationships I've built, the experiences I've had being a business owner helped me create a message that connected with people better because I'm out there and I'm talking to people from different perspectives. I'm understanding the struggles, the victories, all the things that life brings on to you. And it was just really rewarding to see that my business experience is actually in my way and in many ways made me more effective at what I believe I'm called to do and pursue. And it's just kind of cool to see you be able to look back, and obviously hindsight's always easier, but to be able to see the journey you've been on and how that's actually equipped you and prepared you for the next step. And I've always been a big believer in staying where you are if that's where you're supposed to be, right? A lot of people are always looking for the next step, and sometimes there's a lesson you need to learn where you're at, and that lesson is going to prepare you for better equip you for the next step.
Amazing. So you guys have won some great awards, right? You've won the
Sure.
the Spark Award, the Torch Award, you're finalist for another Torch Award. Um,
Hmm.
I mean, we just love to see that companies that are going out and actually winning awards. I mean, you guys have got a lot of great recognition from that. Um,
Yeah.
have you had a strategy of with your team or yourself, kind of going out and sort of applying for these awards? I mean, do these awards just find you guys? I mean, you've earned
Sure.
them, and you guys,
Yeah.
you've done amazing work. But even great companies oftentimes don't have just a long list of awards. How has that happened for you?
I come from a perspective that you don't generally in life you don't get things you don't ask for. um, and like you would want to be recognized for just being good right out of the blue, but sometimes people don't know if you're worth it or not, like they don't have any background. So I do apply for awards. I self nominate, as it were, for a lot of them, but it's because I believe in what we're building, and I
Mhm.
believe that we're unique in a lot of ways in what we're building. And I do believe that some of the awards that we've received as a company and me personally, are because of the way we go about doing things. Like the most recent and probably the most significant award that the company has earned was we were named one of the top 100 small businesses in the country by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. It's called the CO 100, and
Wow.
they have 10 categories that they judge people through. And so the category I applied for was community champion. I think that was called. So basically, I knew I had a lane of like what we do for the community stands out on because a lot of business owners, well, they got different focuses. Some are focused on being innovative. Some are focusing on disrupting something that's kind of corrupt or out of the status quo. And then some are focused on building community or making revenue. So it's, if you find that lane and you focus on it, and I think that because of my background and who I am and how I want my community to be, I focus hard on making the community better. And so, and then part of that is because the Torch Award, that's an ethics award, which I'm really proud of. We were named a regional winner in Denver in 2023 for the Torch Award for ethics. We were named a finalist for the International Torch Award for ethics, which means anybody that in the country plus Canada that won a regional award was put into a pool of contestants to win the international award. I was one of 3 finalists for that. So it was really an honor. And that's because I think about ethics all the time. Ethics is a constant, like I just, when I see the way people do business, I try to see the whole perspective of it. And there are people that they're too nice and they're not making enough money to support themselves and their family and their employees. And then there's people that care more about the bottom line. Often the private equity side of things, where it's more about like bringing in profit, but they don't necessarily care about the community impact or what they're doing to the industry as a whole, or how they're stomping out the little guys, that kind of stuff. So I'm constantly thinking about ethics. I often joke that I can probably guarantee you that there's not another garage door company in the country that thinks about ethics as much as I do. And not to say that I'm perfect, but I'm just constantly processing this information and trying to figure out, how do I create a company that's profitable, that takes great care of my employees, and takes great care of my customers without ripping them off or charging. It's actually a really hard line to figure out. And I think a lot of business owners, a lot of homeowners don't understand that it's a very complex system of like, how do you determine what's fair? And because there's so many hidden costs in running a business that most consumers don't understand.
Amazing. And I want to follow that up, your explanation there, just then, with the fact that you guys have got almost 300 5-star reviews on Google.
Yeah.
So guys, if you're listening to this, and I mean, this is a very important part of this interview. I mean, Chris is talking about how he approaches business. It's difficult to be deeply, deeply ethical. And I see that, we deal with that, right? And I see it out in the marketplace, and we talk with contractors at all different levels of things, and, different kind of focuses on things. But Chris is talking about bringing the highest ethical standards possible. It's a continuous focus for him. He's got almost 300 Google 5-star reviews. Okay. This is not a huge company, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked with companies 20 times this size that have got, less than half that amount of reviews. And also he was chosen for, Inc. I mean, it's right here on the website, one of the top 100 companies in the country, right? And so can I ask you, Chris, how do you go about, I mean, you're definitely doing something right. I mean, it's an amazing amount of kind of, sort of praise you've gotten from the community, especially relative to the size, having, 1 to, 4 or 5 employees. Do you have just kind of talking about tactics here, or a little bit of strategy? Because I'm always encouraging business owners to try to get, as many kind of reviews as they can, ethically, but obviously that's how you're doing this. So do you have a strategy or a step-by-step of how, I mean, I would imagine you have a process in place of, once we do work, when we get to the end of the work, we are, actively asking people to give us an honest review. How have you gotten to that level of being reviewed by the community?
Yeah, honestly, it's one of the best things is follow up. Asking for the reviews, and our we have a field management software that incorporates an ask. So it sends them a text message with a link and says, "Hey, customer reviews really help small businesses succeed." And obviously, that's if you're not doing great quality work, that's a risk, right? You're risking the
Uh-huh.
negative reviews, and that always happens, right? You can never please everybody, and there's always going to be things that fall through the cracks. But when you're confident that the average customer, that the majority of customers are going to have a very positive experience, just send the ask. And generally speaking, people are more than happy to review you. I think that the problem is people, they get busy. So if you're like on site doing a job, or and you just say, hey, it'd be great to have a review, it's not convenient enough. So I think just sending them directly a link of click this here, just real quick, you can do it. Obviously there's a little bit more ethical concerns if you're like in front of the person and they like you have them write the review right there. I know that Google doesn't always love that kind of stuff. So that's why we send it after the job's complete, after the things are paid, so that if there's any conflict with the payment stuff, then we're not kind of muddling a review in there. So once the invoice paid, they get a text, an email says, hey, please review us. And we don't ask for them to only review us if they had a positive experience. It's just simply like, hey, reviews are helpful, and people seem to be very on board with helping out. And then because I'm involved with the community in the nonprofit world, I get a lot of nonprofit supporters that are really happy to kind of throw that in there.
I love it. Well, fantastic, man. I mean, how do things look here for the next year or two for you? I mean, you've got a lot of different projects you're working on, um, a lot of different kind of involvement in things, nonprofits. You guys are donating 3% of your top line revenue, which has come up to over $100,000 the last few years. That is incredible.
Yeah.
Um, I'm here in Denver. You know, um, I live here in Denver as well. Thank you for
Yeah,
donating to our community here,
absolutely.
just one to one. I really appreciate you doing that. Um,
Appreciate that.
regarding kind of you guys' growth, I mean, you're involved in a number of different things. Do you see Chris Garage Doors, growing over the next few years? Are you planning to kind of grow the business, or are you kind of in a really nice place where it's at, and other things are kind of as much of a priority for you as that?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's one that I don't have a necessarily a very clear answer for at this moment. The answer is we were on a great growth trajectory, and part of me didn't realize or know the best way to grow. And I think that's a pretty common issue with entrepreneurs, is like you start growing, you're finding success, and then you're hiring and you're dealing with different personalities and kind of navigating the vision you're creating and kind of trying to help your employees grasp it. And it's just been a struggle for the last couple of years for me personally, and with how the business has been operating. And we've tried a couple things that just didn't work out great. And so my focus for the last 5 months or so has been just, let's just slow down, kind of reframe, refocus. And so right now we're at a point, kind of what I mentioned, like trimming the fat, just reducing overhead that's unnecessary, reevaluating how and when and how big and all that stuff. Because I think that I can see this company growing well. We've built a solid reputation. We have a great support in our community, and I've got, the guy that I have with me is an incredible asset to the team. I've had him for over 5 years. Not a single negative comment from any customer or employee about this man since I've had him, and he's been incredible. And wanting to make sure that I take care of him really well, and then figure out the best way to grow. And I think my strategy would be slow growth. Um, that way I can take one employee at a time to make sure that they fit properly with our culture, they grasp the vision, and they're going to do the work that we expect, for the professionalism that we have established. And then, I think ultimately, if God blesses me and I have a huge company down the road, that's great. I think for me personally, I don't know that I would want to manage more than 5 to 10 technicians on the road, unless I just feel a clear vision that that's too small, right? So, because part of me, I frame things through impact. So I can grade a $5 million company or a $10 million company or whatever down the road. But the more important thing is the more money I bring in, the more impact I can make for the community. And so I am motivated in that sense that the larger I grow this thing, the greater impact potential that there is for the city of Denver and the surrounding areas. And if I ever expanded outside of Colorado, which I don't have any plans to try to look to that unless it is obvious. But yeah, so it's a hard question to answer right now because I'm really in a season of reevaluating kind of everything and just trying to see what the best next steps are. And it's actually kind of a fun place to be when you lower your overhead and your operational costs and you just get to focus in it. I'm not in a desperate place, which is good to be. It's in a really like slow down, refocus place. And that's where I'm at.
Fantastic. What a great story. Well, Chris, if folks want to get in touch with you, if they're here in the Denver area, if they want to hire you for some help with garage doors, or if they want to even be a part of your team, what are a couple of good ways to get in touch with you guys?
Phone, email, so you can text or call. The number's on the website, but it's 720-277-8451. Emailing me directly at Chris at Chris Garage Doors. I'm very good at responding to email. If I think it's spam, I'm going to delete it. But just say, hey, I heard you on this podcast, and I'd love to talk to you or something like that. That way I know that you're not just a sales pitch. But I'm good at responding to those. We have if you go to our website, which is chrisgaragedoors.com, we have an intake form you could fill out. You can put your information, then we'll reach out to you based off of your preferred form of contact. And then we are on social media, so you could always message us there. That one's harder to manage as far as getting good response times. But yeah, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. That's about it. I think there's another one in there somewhere, but yeah.
Fantastic. So that's Chris Garage Doors. So Chris, CHRIS, garagedoors.com.
Correct.
Here in Denver. And, their phone number's on the website. And you can also get in touch with those guys filling out a form on their site. Well, Chris, thank you so much for sharing your story. I mean, you're passionate. You've got a beautiful story, a wonderful heart, and are doing, just incredible work with your church and with your community here in Denver. Again, I'm grateful for all the work you're doing in my own way. We'd love to have you again on at some point here in the future, later on in the year, if you're open to it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But Chris, thank you so much for being on today, man.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Okay. Take care.
Thanks.